Here we are, episode 37 of the Trash Talk Business Podcast, where we talk about growing, scaling, getting out of the junk removal industry. Whether you're hauling dumpsters, emptying trash cans, pulling things out of basements, doing brush in your backyard, you've come to the right place. What a glorious, glorious Monday morning it is here in the great state of Wisconsin. Joining us from Big D, hailing from Dallas, Texas, off a recent loss to the 13-time world champion Green Bay Packers, Casey Bubba Lawrence. How are you doing today?
Doing good, man. We just traded Dak and Kellen Moore, and we gave you your coach back. It's been a good day so far.
You know what?
I think Mike's going back to Green Bay.
It's the best thing Mike McCarthy. Yeah, it's the best thing Mike McCarthy's done for the Packers since that old Super Bowl about 10 years ago.
I think he felt bad for everything. He was just like, man, I'm seeing that team fall apart. He's like, I'm going to give them a win.
Hey, you know what? We'll take it. We've had a rough season. Like Aaron Rodgers said, we're not dead yet. So
motherfucker's dead.
Don't count us out. Don't count us out.
We gave him a fluff. That was it.
4 touchdown performance by Mr. Aaron Rodgers, 3 to the rookie. 2 interceptions for Dak Prescott. We're
off the bat.
We're reading the press box.
We need Cooper Rush back in.
Bring back the ginger. Anyhow. All right, well, now that we got the shit talking out of the way, I think last episode, if you guys are listening in order, Casey said the winner has to wear the loser's jersey, so I have him a jersey en route. He will sport it on a future episode.
The winner,
the green and gold will look
wears. Yeah, the loser wears the winner's jerseys.
That's correct.
So I have a referee jersey en route right now.
That's right. You're right. You know what? Because I'm that's the thing, Casey. I'm so used to winning. I don't even know I can't even assimilate to being a loser. There was 2 questionable calls at the end. I'll say that.
As well as the rest of the game.
There was 2 calls.
Micah Parsons was being held like every play to the point where he had his jersey ripped, and then he's just like, this doesn't just rip on its own. Come on now.
Here's the deal.
The ref was just like, what do you mean?
Here's the deal. He's really fast. You can't slow him down. Okay.
I think the refs. I think they give each other that kind of talk before the games. Like, hey, look, Micah's fast, and there's no way we can even get we'd be here all day just calling penalties. So we just have to let it slide.
So here's the deal. I mean, if you let him go and he hits the quarterback in a semi-egregious manner, then you're going to get a roughness. Right? I mean, you saw what happened to old TB12. Tom Brady, they touched him. Oh, my gosh. And they throw a goddamn the laundry. Touched him.
Sneeze in his area.
Assault, jeez. Criminal charges like Devonte Adams. R.I.P. his career. He was a first ballot Hall of Famer, and now he's a Raider. That's just how she goes. I love Devonte. I actually like Derek Carr and the Raiders. It's awfully disappointing. It's awfully disappointing how terrible their season has been. Lost to just Saturday and the Colts, who basically has no coaching experience. He's like, hey, I used to play here. I'm sure he's a great guy. Head football coach. Apparently he's got one more win than the rest of us.
How about the Vikings, though?
God. Here's the thing about the Vikings.
Out of nowhere. Like, I was looking at the games. I'm like, wait a minute.
They've been building it. Well, here's the deal. They've been building a team, and because the expectations were so low for the Vikings, they're not doing it with a public eye, right? Exactly. Like Rodgers has got to carry the Packers, theoretically, right? Mm-hmm. Lost Adams, rookie receivers. You got Brady, who couldn't even figure out his damn marriage, right? So he's got that pressure. Old let's ride. Russell Williams got paid $1 bajillion to make the Broncos work.
Russell Wilson.
Russell Williams. Right, exactly. Like, or even go down to Chicago. Fields, like the expectations, he's the second coming, right? So the expectations are so low for Kirk Cousins. Like, hey, Kirk, you just not suck this year. And
that's it.
We're going to give you a running game. We're going to give you offensive line. We're going to give you a receiver. We just need you to manage a few wins. And, oh, by the way, your defense doesn't suck. So that's the thing. Expectations are low for the Vikings. And the thing is, being up there in the NFC North, we're turning this whole entire podcast into football. I guarantee you we're going to get to trash here in a second. But here in the NFC North, it's free for the taking. The Bears and Lions aren't doing shit. Right? That's it.
Yeah.
And so it's like if the Packers have one down year, all you have to do is be incompetent, and you can.
I just don't think
Rodgers
will be back next year.
I thought.
I think he's very determined.
I wanted them to trade him in the last February. Here's my argument: you trade Rodgers and Devonte Adams, the amount of draft capital you're going to get from some team. Look what Russell Wilson got. Right,
yeah.
The Seahawks can build, and this goes back to the late '80s when the Cowboys traded Herschel Walker to the Vikings. Right, they built a Super Bowl caliber team with Leon Lett. Lett was one of them, but right then you got Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman. Who was it? What was the offensive line?
Larry Allen.
Larry Allen. I mean, they just built Larry Allen.
Dude,
like he had things
like,
to build. Yeah,
that's how you know you're good when you're an O-line in the Hall of Fame.
Correct. O-line in the Hall of Fame for just that, for imposing your will. Anyways, if the Packers would have done that, because here's what would have happened: they would have played Jordan Love this year because there was no really great quarterbacks in the draft. They would have had Jordan Love play this year. Here's the deal: and Jordan Love, what one of two things would have happened: either he would have had a decent season where you're like, oh, he's a serviceable quarterback, or he would have shit the bed. And now there's some really good quarterbacks coming this year in the draft, including that kid down there from
that's
Georgia.
Kind of
Go Dogs.
That was our view on Rush, though. That was
Dogs.
That's how I looked at it with Rush. I was like, look, worst case scenario, he doesn't do as bad as we thought.
Right. You prove how vital Dak Prescott is or isn't. And basically what they proved was Dak Prescott's a system quarterback. He can run that system. Yep. The problem with the system is
when it changes, he doesn't know what to do.
Well, the old Eminem, Mike McCarthy, timeout clock managing McCarthy. Although the Packers did shit the bed at the end of the game the way they managed the clock. But
that's why I was so mad that we lost. I was like, they gave you an alley-oop.
They gave it to you.
And you just fucked it up.
Shit the bed. All right, we're 7 minutes into this podcast. We haven't even said the word trash or junk. Blew off some steam.
We have. We talked about Packers and Cowboys. That's trash and junk right there.
Let's fucking go. He's not wrong. He is not wrong. Here's when you know, like, there's a especially I know a lot of people that are in Chicago, and they are diehard. Like the Bears can be 3-7 like they are, and they'd be like, "Oh, they got it. This is their year. Fuck the Packers." With me, Cowboys. I can be very realistic. And it's not a fair weather fan. I love the Packers, but I can also be very objective. Like, hey, you got Rodgers, who is, I'm not gonna say past his prime, but he is used to a certain caliber of play. And now that he's got all these rookie receivers, it's taken him a half a season to be like, oh, wait, you're not going to catch every ball I throw at you? Like, and you got an offensive line that doesn't give him, 17 seconds to throw the ball.
Ball that I throw at you. Exactly.
And he does have a running game. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are like the best 1-2 punch in the league. And the last couple of games, the reason why Rodgers and the Packers have lost is because Rodgers keeps audibling out of run plays and going with pass plays. Well, it's like, dude, you give Aaron Jones the rock, he you know what? Yeah, there's going to be a couple times he gets pushed back. And there's going to be a couple times he goes down for 10, 12, 20 yards, right? And he did he busted one or two out at times in the game when we need them. Actually, I said earlier in the program, did I say Rodgers had 4 touchdowns? Maybe no. I think he had 3 because Aaron Jones ran one in when he Superman did. So there are your show notes, omissions and corrections. They do that on Pardon the Interruption. That was always my goal in life when I was in high school. Now that I'm just fucking rambling, was to be a sports announcer, doing color or commentary during the games.
I always thought that seemed fun, but here's the problem.
What's the problem?
On Monday mornings, when the Cowboys blow it against the Green Bay Packers, I'll be like, I just don't feel like talking about it right now. All right, here's the highlights. Here's the score. Moving on. Now you have 57 minutes on your program to fill with something. How about this Mavericks? Let's talk about next year's draft picks.
Yeah. How are the Mavericks doing this year? Right now that we're going, the Milwaukee Bucks are doing great this year. In case you were wondering, 10-2. They started the season 9-0. I think.
I don't know what the Mavs are doing. Normally follow basketball.
The only reason I will be the first to admit I am a fair weather fan when it comes to
it's
basketball. And
because the Bucks used to be nothing, and now they're actually decent.
Oh yeah, dude, it was difficult. Well, the problem in the '90s was you couldn't even watch Bucks games because they're always blacked out because no one went to the games. And we got WGN, the world's greatest network, channel 22, and I could watch Bulls games. And for some of our younger listeners, the 1990s Bulls were a religion. They were pop culture. They were everything. They were beyond. What's that? Here, looking up. Mavs are 6-4. I do love Mark Cuban.
7-5. I'm sorry.
7-5. I will go. Here's tell you what. Next time I come to Dallas, let's go to a Mavericks game. I will go not because I like basketball, but just because I want to give Mark Cuban my money in some way, shape, or form. Yes. I watched a great episode of Shark. So let me tell you how great my day was yesterday. I went to shotguns, got my rifle sighted in for opening weekend of deer hunting. I watched the Green Bay football Packers put an ass whooping on the Cowboys, won by 3 in overtime. And then I watched an amazing episode of Shark Tank. You know what? For a single guy on a Sunday afternoon, that's the way to fucking live your life. That's it.
Yeah, the tag team against one match last night was pretty awful. But moving on to trash. Yeah, I mean, the refs and Green Bay Packers, they were taking their turns.
Oh my god! It wasn't even a tag team. All right, well then, fine. Let's talk about trash. What do you want to talk about in the trash world, Casey? Since you're so insistent on giving our listeners something viable to listen to.
Oh man, so
talk to me.
There's a couple of times where I'm pretty sure you've heard of this or had these calls before, and it's, hey, look, I'm doing everything I can right now, but I'm just not getting any phone calls. My business is slow. I'm out doing all of this. And my only question to them, it's always the same. When did you start doing all of this? And they're usually like,
ain't that be about
last week.
Yep.
I mean, and they'll be like, well, I mean, last week we started getting slow, so I started doing this. It's like, all right, well, there you go. So the issue is,
late, Jack. Yeah,
we're getting into slow season. And now you have a couple different factors going against these junk removal companies. One being the weather, especially up north. I mean, down here it's 40 degrees and rainy. Like, it's just terrible. It's miserable, right? It's just
that's still shit. Yeah, it's still shit.
And then you have obviously everybody getting ready for the holidays. So their last thing they're thinking about is spending money on services. But then you also have the inevitable. I'm starting to slow down. So now I'm going to start realizing the marketing I haven't done this year. So slow season's upon us. And there's a couple things that I think are great not projects, but tasks for junk removal owners to do in the slow seasons, especially marketing. But this isn't going to be about marketing, because marketing is a definite must. But this is something that I think is very important, whether you're owner operator or whether you have multiple teams or not. Training. There's no excuse when you're slow not to have training, because you have all the time in the world. And the biggest thing that I think a lot of us have an issue with is the consistency when it comes to your teams or your jobs. Why did this job that I saw it differently, but it's the same job, but why did it come out different? Well, did you have a process for it? Well, no, because it's just this. Well, obviously it's not just that, because it came out 2 different ways. So during the slow seasons, training is a huge, huge thing to not just offer yourself, but your teams. I'll go first, and then I'd like to hear from you. But one of the trainings I would do is just your basic, going around the truck and what you do when you approach a house kind of training. But I actually would go into the back end as well. When a crew gets in from a job, they go through these steps, right? Whether it's they stop here first and they drop off the scrap or the whatever, and then they go to the yard, drop off the brush or the actual waste for it to get loaded. Then they update their schedule, contact the next customer, and then they go to the next job. But a lot of times, organization is a killer. And I don't know how many times this happened to you, but I would always have color-coded or different identifiers on all my tools on the different trucks. One truck is green, one truck is red, yellow, whatever. But for some reason, you get a call. It's a great busy day. One of the crews is like, hey, look, we started this job like 10 minutes ago and we have no shovels. And we need shovels. Well, what the fuck? You should have shovels. But then you have another truck that rolls in at the end of the day and they have 6 shovels. They're all different colors. How does that happen? Right? So how do you prevent that? Well, obviously you don't have anybody spot checking.
Well, you have to great. Even go back a second. You got to have a process, right? So let's here. And so we both do consulting, right? Like just full transparency. You can always hit us up, right? Shameless plug. You can hire us to do consulting, right? I tell people all the time, like, I don't have all the answers, but this is what I can tell you is you, the owner, figure out what do you do that works, develop a process. Once you have a process, then you can develop training. So the process isn't, we color coordinate our tools. No, that's part of the process. That's what do you call it? That's a check on learning. Hey, I have all blue tools and there's a red tool. Do I have all the tools? But it comes down to processes. So to your point, but also what you said earlier when it comes to marketing, if you're not marketing until you're out of jobs, or you're not going out and selling until your phone doesn't ring, if you're not developing processes until you lose a tool, it's like it's never too late. It's never too late, right? But it's later than it would. The goal is to prevent the phone from not ringing. The goal is to prevent you from losing your phones. So,
and the one thing I saw when I came up to your warehouse years ago, I remember, and I think you've changed this process to probably a more efficient one. But I remember we came up there, and you and I walked in the office. We went straight to this little office in the back where they had crates, and each crate had your just basic essential sign out thing. You had a phone, you had a sawzall, or I'm sorry, a recip saw, and whatever the hell else you had in that crate. But they were signing out that crate and that vehicle for the day. That was the driver's responsibility. That right there, it now holds them accountable for the truck and whatever is in that crate. It also says, "Hey, I'm Casey, I'm taking this phone for the day." I think you've changed that since then, but
we've modified it. But it's the fact that we had a process. So that's the other thing. So you were here for just a hot second, and you saw that we had a process that was simple and repeatable. So even to this day, what it is, great, 100%. So what we do is for every truck, we have a cell phone or tablet, because we run jobs for waste management. We need tablets for them. We have a cell phone and or tablet, the keys, the credit card, the fuel card, right? That's what goes with the truck. And then individually, our crew chiefs all have their own credit card. So that's the purchase, the company card, and the non-fuel card. And they also have their tools, and they're individually assigned, so that, to your point, when they go from one truck to the next, because they often switch trucks depending on the configuration, they take their shit with them. Now, in a perfect world, they do it the night before. The reality is they do it the morning of. Like, what truck was I in yesterday? Oh, shit. Right. And then the guys would be like, hey, I want to use the truck as often as I can. And often we can do a lot of things like that. Because
we also had our sign-out tools versus standard tools.
Right, exactly. Then when we have our corded tools, so our big impact. So we have a big impact, and we take apart like decks and stuff that's corded. Yeah, our heavy duty circular saw, recip saw.
My first is chainsaw,
jackhammer,
circ saw. Yeah.
We have a chain. Yeah, for the record, I hate chainsaws. Because
when you cut the trees, they come in handy.
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't do brush. Then when you use a chainsaw to cut up a what do you call it?
Don't say it.
A playset. Yeah, a playset is fine, but cutting up a hot tub or anything where you could hit something metal is terrible.
No, it's terrible.
Actually, what I learned,
it's terrible.
That's correct. Chainsaws are fine for play sets. But I'm not. I'd rather use a circular saw or a recip saw. That's just me. But I'm a construction guy versus landscape guy. But I'm not going to stop my guys from using a chainsaw. But I will say I did learn. This is something I learned at JunkCon, was to cut up hot tubs. I've always used corded recip saws or cordless if I can't plug in for whatever reason. One guy was telling me he uses a concrete saw, puts like a 14-inch or 12-inch diamond cut demo blade on it. And my only thing with that is that actually makes a lot of sense. The only challenge I have with that is the safety aspect.
DeWalt makes a good battery-powered concrete saw.
Do they? Does it fucking slap?
It's legit. It really is. I mean, it's pricey. It's like, but if you get it with a set, it makes more sense. But I mean, that battery power, you're like, how long is that actually going to work? It actually does really well.
Okay, that's interesting.
Actually, what we would do is on any job where we would have to if that's a specialty item, obviously, and if we had a job where we're like, hey, we're going to need this and this, we actually brought battery chargers with that job.
Yeah.
While we're doing stuff, we are charging batteries, so that way there's no delay. There's no battery's dead.
Yeah, it's all, yeah. Again, perfect world. Yeah, here we go. I have a DeWalt 60 volt, which I thought they were going to discontinue a lot of the 60 volt stuff. I used to work for DeWalt when the 60 volt stuff came out. 32 volt. They released the 32 volt stuff.
Yeah.
Here you go. There's a 60 volt DeWalt. It's a brushless cut-off saw. Considered a cut-off saw. Always cut off a concrete saw, but I guess technically cut-off saw. That's interesting. The ones we always used were gas, and they're about 70 pounds, and they kick. They got a right.
Oh, yeah.
And cutting concrete is fine because it's flat. Hot tubs, not flat.
No.
Here's a Milwaukee one. All right. Also, my guys are they really want to convert me to Milwaukee, which is interesting because the Milwaukee World Headquarters is in the same industrial park I'm in, and not because I'm bougie. They just are, and so that's what I find really interesting. Yeah, this Milwaukee one's $900, buckaroonies.
Yeah.
We just don't cut that many up. Anyways, I'm a DeWalt guy. I always have been. I was raised on yellow. We had one last week.
Like
well,
if it was in a deck.
Yeah, I have a piano dolly. Yeah, correct. In a deck, we cut them up. We had one the other day that was in a house that we had to cut up.
Man.
So they brought it in, built the room around it kind of thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly that, but they changed something where they're like, yeah, this is where it came from. We're like, oh, yeah, it's not coming up. All right, so let's go back to the top. Junk removal. This is what I agree 100%. This is the time when it starts to slow down. You should have cash reserves from when you were living fat in the winter. If you weren't, go read the book Profit First. Michael Holowitz will talk about it. You do profit first. You put some money aside for long-term savings, so that you don't have to make shitty decisions when it gets slow. And for the people out there that were pissing away money this summer while things were good because you thought, oh, this money's going to keep coming, news for you, that ain't fucking reality. And in the next 6 weeks, there's 3 weeks that are automatically going to be slow. Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. Now, it's a little bit different this year because Christmas and New Year's are on a weekend. But typically, those are 3 weeks where you lose 2 or 3 days, right? You lose 8 or 9 days coming up just based off of a couple holidays. Like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, that's a loss leader. We're done by like noon or 2 because we're not banging jobs, right? People are getting ready for the holiday. Thanksgiving's a loss leader. We work the Friday and Saturday or typically the Friday after. And we don't do a lot of jobs that day. It's like we're available if needed.
Half staff.
It's a half, right? Half staff. So there you got 3 half day, or there you got 2 days lost in Thanksgiving week. Christmas and New Year's, typically it's the eve, the day of, the day after are slow days. So there's 8 or 9 days of revenue you're losing in a 6-week period. So if you're used to
not even accounting for weather,
correct, correct, and you haven't thought in snow days, seasonality. Budgets, also people, commercial jobs die after December 15th because people aren't in offices.
Yeah.
Or the money is spent on the year. Or just this is the stuff. So here's a couple things of advice. You should have cash reserves. If you don't have cash reserves, we can't go back in time. You're going to have it rough. It's going to be complicated.
Yeah.
Right? I'll just say that. It's going to be complicated because now you have to figure out how do I stay in business and grow the business or sustain the business all at the same time. If you do have cash reserves, make this thing that is complicated. How do I build my business when money's low or when jobs are slow, and make it simple? What are the things that you've been saying the last 6 months? Man, I wish I had XYZ. If you want to have stability in your marketing or your networking or your training, now is the time to do it because to Casey's point, you're not going to reap those rewards tomorrow. You will in the next 30, 60, 90 days, even when it comes to training your employees. You have to sit down and start writing processes. Then you got to train the employees. Then you have to make sure that the process you wrote is consistent with what they're doing and it's the best. So you got to retool it. It's going to take 30 days to roll out a good training program from the I need processes to the guys are dialed in. You got a week to write it, a week to test it, a week to rewrite it, a week to retrain it. I mean, look at the military.
Yeah.
We train and train and train and train and train and train, and that's doctrine that's been written over hundreds of years.
Oh, yeah. And they make it muscle memory, right? So that was the biggest thing. Something as simple, like this is what I tell everybody. I think I've told you. The minute one of my guys grabs the keys, just checking the truck and trailer before you leave, That process alone, it takes no time at all. If you do it this one way, this is how it's
same way every time.
This is the only way you're going to do it.
Yep.
I don't care if you think it doesn't make sense. This is what you're going to do. And they would essentially start driver's side, left, corner panel, whatever the headlight is. And then inspect the entire truck and trailer and then go around touching, physically grabbing and touching where the trailer and the truck hook up, right? Feeling underneath, make sure that lock has done everything. And then when they finish, they're back where they started. Now they get inside the truck. The cool thing is, if you do it that way every single time, there's not going to be, I forgot. Or, how did you know you had 2 spares? Because all my trailers, we would have 2 spare tires. And they're like, hey, man, I got a flat. I don't have a spare. Why don't you have a spare? How did you leave the yard without a spare tire? Oh, I didn't know we didn't have a spare. Well, that's wrong because you circled the truck and trailer, right? Well, no.
Correct. Okay, so you chose not to follow the SOP. That's what I'm hearing, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. And that's, as a business owner, you can only do so much. Obviously, you can't force people to do things. But what you can do is you can have processes, a set of processes that's to like, hey, look, I made this as simple and easy as I could possibly make it for you. That way, when you show up to work, there's no like, oh, I got to think on my feet. Because, you want people that can think on their feet. But a lot of times we get people that don't want to think on their feet. So what's that mean? Make it easy for them. Now, at the same time, I had standards just for when we chained up the Bobcat. Whenever we load up our skid steer, it would be loaded up this way. You use these chains, these binders, and you do it from this side. And this is exactly how you do it every single time. And they always ask, why? And I go, here's why. Because when you get out of the truck, when you get to your destination, when you do it, when you're finished unloading or unchaining everything, it brings you right back to the front so you can just hop in the skid steer, back it on out. Boom. Yep.
Well, I teach our guys always put like ratchet straps, for example. I always want you to put the buckle on the driver's side. Because that way, when you look down, the likelihood, if there's anything wrong with it, you can look, right? Because ultimately, it's the driver's responsibility, the truck commander, it's their responsibility to make sure that load's secure. You can't be like, oh, I thought someone else was going to do it. Nope, that's on your side. It is because you're the one I'm paying more to be the driver today.
Yeah.
Right?
And also, you're the one I'm trusting. You're the one I'm trusting to drive this machine and to go into the public with this truck and trailer and other people and do the right thing.
Yeah.
So I think, whether you're starting out or not, now's the time to get ready for the slowness, but to realize, hey, you got processes or you don't. If you don't have processes, this is when you get started on them because there's no better time than when you're slow.
Oh, 100%. So actually, here's what's something funny. I just got a text from our boy Griffin Parrott.
Yeah.
Patriot. Perot. Can't remember how to say his name. Oh, yeah. Like he said, Marriott. Like Marriott, like Marriott. I had to look at it again. Anyways, all right. So he just asked, and I'm just going to do this live on the air because why not? Do you know what typical growth percentage is from year 1 to year 2 if doing the right things? Trying to get some ideas to help prepare for second year. I'm gonna kick that one to you, Case. What is accurate in your world?
In my world, well,
or from your, I mean, not your world as in like
I'll say
Casey
typical.
and his junk removal. What would you say is accurate?
If you're going into year 2, then you already at least have multiple crews, whether that be 2 or even 3.
Well, let's remember he's a one truck show.
Right. No, I get that. Or you're getting into your second truck or second crew. Right. Yep. Your first year is when you make your mistakes. And for all
choices.
You out there who put private money in,
you make choices.
I'm sorry. Your first year is where you learn your lessons.
That's fair. I hate the word mistake, but you make choices, and sometimes those choices work out, and sometimes they don't. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. So my stepdad always said, it's better to spend the money in the beginning.
Yes,
because the last thing you want to do is get to a point where you need it and you have to spend it. So if you're already going to be digging a hole, dig it, get done digging it before you move forward. So first year, you learn all your lessons, where your marketing works, where it doesn't work. You have to understand if you're not recording that, if you're not saying, hey, I know print media doesn't help. If I go and do a magazine thing and I pay $500 to be in a magazine, well, why didn't I get any jobs? Doesn't matter. You just realize it doesn't work for what you're doing. So don't do it again.
But correct. You spend $500 and now you're not going to do it again. And there's a $500 lesson learned. Done.
Right. $500 lesson learned. You spent $500 to figure out you don't need to do that. Now,
that's correct.
On the flip side, the second year is when you start being more in tune with what works for your company, not taking these giant risks in can I do it? It's versus should I do it? Because you already have a year now. So the can and the shoulds are different. I'm going to tell you right now, in the first year, if I were to go back and do things, in my first year, I would do a lot more that I probably shouldn't have done because I wanted to know what I could do. But my second year, I would have focused way more on what I should do, not what I could. And if that makes sense, if it doesn't make sense, the reason what I'm trying to get at is our first year, we did jobs anywhere, everywhere, as much as we could.
Get as many data points as possible. Do everything you can.
Second year, we focused a lot on what we knew for a fact we could do efficiently and profitably, right?
Yep.
So our second year, going into third year, that's when we figured out construction jobs were not profitable. We did a lot of them. I mean, we killed it. But then we look at the numbers, and we're wow, we're barely breaking even.
Yeah.
Like we did, for one company alone, we did $275,000 in 6 months. It wasn't worth it. Like we didn't do it again after that because we were like, of all that money we made, we almost damn near spent that much money just keeping up with them, right? So in the third year, we got picky. All right, we're not going to do that again. We're not going to go throw a broad net. We're going to be focusing. We're going to be more like a sniper, right? We're going to be, boom, I want that. I want that.
Yep.
So first to second year, do more of what you should, not more of what you can, because that's what helps you focus on what your business needs and does well. And I'm trying to remember if Griffin, did he have the box truck?
Yeah, he had that like old U-Haul box truck he was running.
Okay, so I'd also look at, I mean, obviously we don't know his numbers right now or anything, but in the second year, I would see if the box truck is working, if it's working well, and if it is, okay, how do you duplicate that? If it's not, what does your market call for? Because he's up in Minnesota, right?
He's in Minnesota. What he's looking for, though, is what do you anticipate growth being, right, year one to year two, making, that's it. That's what he's asking.
Okay, well, I can tell you, in an easiest answer, I've seen it double. I've seen it more than double, but I've also seen it flat out do the same. Yeah. The only difference is what are you changing? And if I make $300,000 my first year and I make $300,000 my second year, what's the difference? Profit. Did you profit the second year or did you profit the first year? Because you're not going to profit the first year. But the second year, if you do make a profit, then that $300,000 is irrelevant to your first $300,000 because now you're making profit.
Yeah.
Right. I've seen it to where we made our first 7 figures. And I looked at it. I remember we were looking at the numbers and I was like, holy F. Like we barely made a profit. and if you think about it, how much is 1 million? Right. It's a lot. And for all those ballers out there, I don't care who you are, I was very proud that we did that number because that's hard to do in a small business. But when you do it, if you don't learn how to do it better, then you're going to do the exact same thing, make the same learning lessons or whatever you want to call them.
Choices.
So your first to second year, I could definitely say you can double your business. But for me, I didn't show a profit till year 4. A lot of it was mainly due because intentional, but
correct.
I wouldn't.
You were continually reinvesting, so you were spending money in tools, equipment, revenue, and marketing because you wanted to get to a place of sustainability, get your parents retired, get you out of the day to day, right? And you also paid yourself along the way.
Exactly, and that's the other thing is, as a business owner, I wasn't stingy. I wasn't trying to give myself 6 figures a year,
Right, but I don't want people thinking that you didn't pay yourselves at all, right? Because you did, right?
Oh no,
in the profit first mindset, you got paid, right? You weren't the only owner, but you were what do you call it?
First year I was at $36,000 a year.
Correct. You were a
second
manager.
Year made a bump. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Exactly. Again, $36,000 a year. Right? You got to pay yourself something. It's a good starting point.
Something.
And for you, it worked. But if you want to make 6 figures, you do that the first year, it is going to stunt your growth. Like I saw a guy in the group recently, in one of the groups we're in. He's like, I did $144,000 this year. He put up his profit and loss statement. 144. He netted when it was all said and done $82,000. And I'm like, that's awesome. He's got $80,000 a year business, right? He'll finish the year probably 90, maybe even 100 if he finishes strong. and he'll do 200 revenue with 50% margin. Let's just call it that, right? Maybe 180, but 50% makes 90. Here's the challenge I see with that model. It's not repeatable. And not say he can't do it again. He can do it again, but he bought himself a job. And that's fine. That's fine until it isn't. And that's the challenge.
It's kind of a loaded question. I mean, no offense to Griffin, but it's kind of a loaded question because it could look differently for every aspect you look at it. I mean, if you were to go back and start all over again with everything you learned, your second year is going to be completely different than your first. At the same time, it's very vital to go through those steps in the first year of effing up. And when I say F up, I mean, sometimes that's what's going to be. It's going to be, I mean, everything was supposed to go great. This had success written all over it, but for some reason, I'm scared to death to even walk into another freaking job. Because it happens. You're going to F up, but get it out of the way in the first year. The second year, focus on what you know. You do well.
Make $1,010 mistakes versus one $10,000 mistake.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing is through the slow season, you're going to see people starting to offer different services. And what's going to happen is towards springtime, they're going to be like, well, shit, I've made all this money fucking painting bricks. Maybe I should just do brick painting. Well, then do it. Well, but if you start doing both, you're going to have problems.
You're going to be, well, that's like the guys that get into pressure washing, or we get this every year. Hey, are you guys going to do snow removal? No. Well, you guys should. No, we shouldn't. Right? Well, all you have to do is put a plow in your truck. You're right. But if I put a plow in my truck, then I got to put a salter. If I put a salter in my truck, then I can't pull a trailer. Now I'm not in junk removal anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's as simple as it is. If something's so good that you have to do it, stop doing it. We got a buddy, one of your buddies down there in Texas, that started doing fences. Then he's doing roofs. Then he's doing this. Then he's doing that. Well, it's like, okay, why don't you just be great at one thing? Or start a whole other company and hire a general manager. I also know people. I got a guy here in Milwaukee. He does basement sealing. His basement sealing business is doing so well, he was fucking bored. So he's like, hey, I'm going to get into roofing. But he spent 15 years building that basement sealing business and has 40 employees, and it's doing very well. Yeah. And he has a general manager. And then he got into the roofing business, but he built the whole team. He wasn't like year two, oh, I had a slow week. Let me start, doing something different.
Well, and I get sometimes because you get worried about your business. You get worried about the people that you have employed. You're like, man, I got to have some sort of revenue coming in. And at this point, I don't care where it's coming from. I just need it. Well, and I get that.
Well, you say another word that gets me twitchy. You get worried.
Worried.
Stop. Yeah. Don't get worried. Anticipate the slowdown. I got it. Yeah. But then how do you quell worry? You quell worry with information. So if you do your KPIs, right, your key performance indicators, you're tracking where your marketing dollars coming in, you're tracking your profitability on certain jobs, you don't worry, you make decisions based on the marketing conditions.
Well, at the same time, look at your numbers, man. I mean, your numbers won't lie to you. If you're doing your numbers correctly, and if you have any questions on numbers, I'll tell you this, I actually trust Andy when it comes to numbers because he's addicted to numbers. So give him a call and say, hey, look,
numbers don't fucking
shoot him
lie.
Shoot him over your P&L for a second, and he'll be like, look, I'll tell you straight up, non-biased. This is what I think you should do. This is fucked up. This is great, whatever. But if you're not looking at your numbers and you're going into a slow season, the last thing you need to be thinking about is starting something completely different.
Oh, my God.
Because you're going to have the exact same issues times two.
100%. 100%. And this isn't that Casey and I are getting on our high horse saying, we never did this. I 100% did this.
Yeah.
I want to make this so abundantly clear that the lessons we talk about, this is free and information because we did it and we made choices and it didn't work out.
Not only did we do it, we had a franchise that we were part of.
That encouraged
every franchise to start another franchise.
Oh, yeah.
In a completely different market.
Go do handyman. Go do carpet cleaning. Go do pressure washing. That's the sign of someone that doesn't know what the fuck they do. Right? You know what 800 Got Junk does? Junk. You know what Junk King does? Junk. You know what J-Dog does?
Chicken.
Yeah, chicken. Off on Sundays. You know what J-Dog does? Whatever wild harebrained idea seems like a good idea at the time. Speaking of, another one of their would-be soon now former franchisees texted me this morning. I'm going to get on this tangent here while we have your undivided attention. If you made it through 9 or about 11 minutes of fucking football talk, you're still listening, we have your undivided attention. Here's what I'm going to say. So we had this conversation, you and I had this conversation with other people when we were in Vegas a couple weeks back at the Military Influencers Conference. I also had this conversation in Raleigh, North Carolina, at the JunkCon conference, where I've been very fortunate that our junk roll business has grown enough for me to travel and share things with the world. But people keep asking the question, hey, Andy and Casey, why do y'all do this? I can tell you, it ain't for the free meals at Applebee's on Veterans Day. Welcome home, all my fellow veterans. Love you, boys and girls. Right? But this is what I'll say. Why we do this podcast. We do this podcast to give ideas and answers so that you can go out and be successful. You want to talk about worry? I don't worry about shit, but I anticipate that there's going to be somebody that buys into a franchise, J-Dog or otherwise, and lose out big time because of what they don't know. And so I want to give the answers to everybody because I'm passionate about this industry. I want people to recycle more, all that other shit. But moreover, I don't want to get the text message I got this morning about, hey, how do I not get sued by this big company that has lawyers and pockets deeper than mine because I'm $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 behind, and I lost years of my life believing somebody that I thought had my back. Or like I saw this morning, there's a company. Actually, we got a text message from our producer about what do you call it? Where I see it, a company within one of the junk removal forums who's selling junk removal, right? And I don't know anything about Junk Quest. I saw the post, right? I want people to have as much information as possible before they get into their business. Even this one, right? Maybe the guy made it so well he just wants to sell. Maybe he got a big boy job. Maybe there was a situation in the family. I don't know. I'm not there to figure out. But the point is, Casey and I will give an hour of our week and the money it costs to produce the podcast and put it out to the world so that everybody else that wants to get in this industry, that's passionate about this industry, doesn't have to think as much and make choices that don't fucking work out because we're giving you the answers.
Well, it's not, and it's also not even think as much. It's we're trying to say, look, we did the fucking up, so we're just trying to help people not go down the same exact route. Because if I were to choose fucking up one way or another, I'd rather it be a completely different way where someone was like, dude, no one knew how to prevent that. And what we're trying to say is like, it's not even a secret. It's just like whenever you're doing this, if you're not happy doing it, if every day you wake up in the morning thinking, I have to do this or I'm going to go bankrupt or my family's going to be home or whatever. That's what sucks. That sucks. Because you also made that choice in the beginning to be financially free, to be an entrepreneur. So now you're getting your hopes and dreams or whatever smashed by someone you trusted. And now it's, just effing you over. But to your point, Andy, that's the thing is I love doing this. I get excited whenever we do this podcast.
100%.
Mainly because we are in our element. We get to talk. We get to learn. We get to teach. When we went to JunkCon, it wasn't just talking. Like we were learning some shit too.
Oh my God. I learned so
much. It was awesome.
There's things that guys that have been in this business 6 months taught me.
My gosh.
Hell yeah.
And the younger generation doing this.
Oh my God. The young guys.
It's like, holy crap. Didn't even think of that.
No. And the goal here is that we build this industry, right? The junk roll industry has doubled, more than doubled in the last 10 years. It's our opportunity of being a level of professionalism to this industry by recycling more, by adhering to standards. Every time I go on these junk roll forums, I'm seeing, how much do I charge for this? How much do I charge for that? Come on, people in this industry, get your shit together. Figure out your time and material, figure out your cost of goods, figure out your price per cubic yard, price your fucking jobs. Let's have some next level conversations on how do we build this industry as the independent owner operators, because this is the reality. If we don't put the work in now, we're going to get gobbled up by the big guys. I was on a podcast earlier today. I do a monthly segment with Waste 360, one of the biggest publications in the waste industry. I do a monthly 10, 12-minute small hauler segment. And we talked today about three things. We talked about the election, that it still isn't fucking decided because people can't count. I'll send goddamn Big Bird down your way. We talked about the recession. We are in a recession, whether you want to believe it or not. 40-year high inflation. That's a fucking fact. Hold on your dollars. They become worth less. Spend them now. You might be out of business. I don't have a good fucking answer. Right. And the other thing we talked about was Neighborly. I don't know if you saw this, Casey, bought out Junk King. Junk King being the number one junk removal franchise owned in America. We know that 800 Got Junk is owned by our neighbors in the north. Neighborly right? Big company that owns all these different franchises, right? And they focus specifically with veterans and different things. They now own Junk King. So this industry that was kind of, right? The big boys are starting to take notice. Guess what? Junk King's got bigger, deeper pockets than you. And if you got a Junk King near you, I'm not saying don't collaborate or get shitty with a franchisee. It is what it is, right? But big dollar people are taking notice of this industry. And I was part of this. When we had military veterans partners, MVP, this company that was our venture capitalist, they're like, hey, we see this growing industry. We want some. So I am the advocate. I'm gonna beat the drum and fly the flag for the independent owner operator junk removal business out there. But if you want to be relevant in 2 or 3 years from now, you better step up your game.
Yeah.
If you're worried about, oh, my landfill fees are this and I don't know how to price a load, you're not going to be able to afford your internet connection soon, because you're going to get swallowed up by the regional guys or the local guys that are professional. And if they don't get you, the big boy blue or the big boy red are coming for your customers.
Well, yeah,
and I'm not saying this is something they're worried about. Correct. Put your ego to the side. Be professional, right? Recycle. Don't wait till your phone stops ringing. You got to be a professional business owner, because if you think just being chuck in the truck is going to get you a 6-figure income, it's not. I've seen people fail left and right thinking, oh, I'm just going to get in my truck and haul loads. That's great. Right? That's great until it isn't. That's great until you get hurt. That's great until you want to go on vacation. That's great until you age out and you have a business that's not worth anything because it's owner-centric.
Yeah.
I'm getting on my fucking soapbox here because I give a shit about owner-operators. What I don't want is text message from guys first thing on the Monday morning saying, hey, I'm getting my ass kicked and sued by a big franchise. Guys, I'm selling my business because I didn't know enough. People that quit their 9-to-5s and then 6 months later are like, shit, I'm worse off than when I started.
Well,
so you got to be professional.
I had a conversation with a good Ranger buddy of mine. He has a franchise, not in junk removal, different industry, but it's it's a contractor service industry. And we're talking, and he's like waiting on this huge SBA loan. He's been trying to get for almost a year.
Jesus.
He's like, man, like I need it. I can't wait to get it, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, let me ask you a question. What's your contingency plan? Not to be negative, but like, what if you don't get this loan? He's like, if I don't get this loan, I'm done. Like, I have to close down. Like, I can't do it anymore. I'm exhausted, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, all right, well, what if you get the loan? He goes, well, if I get the loan, I'm going to get things settled, then I'm going to sell it. Here's the thing for everybody out there.
Yeah, I can keep making the same decisions. That money's just going to go.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, just because you have a business that you may think is doing well, doesn't mean it's worth any money, okay? This goes back to the guy who's posting his business for sale. All right, I have no idea anything about his business, but my first question would not be on Facebook. It would be like, hey, if I'm interested in this, I'm going to ask you about a page worth of questions about your business. And at the end of it, I can almost guarantee either A, it's not worth any money, or B, it's not worth near as much as you think it is.
Correct. Casey, how long did it take you to sell your business from I want to sell to sold?
Actively, probably 6 months.
But from when you said from when you said you wanted to.
When I wanted to sell?
Yeah.
To when we sold.
Yep.
Well, honestly, it was about 6 months because the original plan was not to sell. The original plan was for me to take it into the stratosphere, man. Yeah. But we got to a point where we were very, very profitable. We had paid off any and all debts. And we all sat down. I was thinking, like, do I really want to do this for the next 5 years under a franchise? Or do I want to sell it? And then I had the freedom of doing it on my own, hands and knees or whatever. And at the same time, my actual name means something more than just in my little area. So for me, it was mainly because no matter how good I did or how big I got, it was not for my name. It wasn't for my family's legacy. It was for someone that I didn't like or didn't respect to make him feel better, I guess. And I like that. That's why I sold out of the franchise model. I sold out of the franchise model first, and then second, I sold my business, right? Because it is the same thing. The actual process, though, from the minute we made the decision to we sold was probably about 6 to 7 months. And just to let everybody know, in that time frame, you can't slow down at all. You have to keep the status quo, or you have to keep outdoing it. Because the last thing you want is for interested parties to come in and change their minds.
Oh, yeah.
And for us, we had three interests. And the third one, we actually did a really big owner finance deal because they were actually looking for exactly what we were selling. So we said, okay, let's make it work. They were local. We made it work.
Yeah. Well, and you also sold a franchise, which they were already sold on
that idea.
A franchise, and B, the franchise brand.
Yep.
Right, that you had. So you didn't have to do the convincing.
They were going to move to Virginia and start a brand new franchise. And we were like, hold the phone. You live 15 minutes away. Why start over in a completely different state? Rather, take on a very profitable and debt-free business down the street from where you live.
Yeah. I got you.
But the process was very enlightening too. Well, I mean, we learned a lot. Just because you have a truck and trailer doesn't mean it's worth what the truck and trailer does. It's not.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to tell you right now, if someone offered me a turnkey solution to a junk removal company, I would not want to take on the vehicles associated with it. I'd be like, I'll get my own.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion. I think vehicles are strictly liabilities, man.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. I see a lot. I mean, I see that a lot in the groups is these a lot of these the NPRs, these unibody trucks.
Yeah.
I have two of them now, the dump trucks. Those things are giving me bigger headaches and hassles than any of my other trucks. Now, I have them. I run them. I run them specifically for bulk routes, which is what I need them for. And they're not great. I'll just put it that way. For how we run. We run fucking hard and we run fucking heavy. So,
and that's exactly
trucks,
that's my point on even 3/4 ton diesel trucks. I tell everybody, I mean, you're going to get your standalones, but I tell everybody 3 years. That's my lifespan for one truck.
I know
3 years. And that's if it's new.
I know. I got 5 trucks in my fleet that I bought 5 years ago. So I had them right in the between 4 and 5 years ago. So they all, and then we refined whatever. All of them. The financing ends in October of next year. So I got like 10 more months on them, and they started giving me problems about 6 months ago, 6 months to a year ago. The pickup trucks are still holding up. We go with the gas pickup trucks. I'm still debating whether I go gas or diesel moving forward. It's kind of here nor there. But yeah, your trucks are going to be, exclusive to you, and they're dime a dozen. Also, assuming right now you can get fucking trucks, because that ain't fucking happening, or that hasn't been happening. You know,
but that's the thing is, like, these are the times where you're going to realize a lot of shit that you didn't know when you're quote unquote too busy, right? It's so easy for us to be like, I'm sorry. Like, I had a conversation with my sister over the weekend. She came over and helped Monica do some brand photography things, and my sister she works with my dad, and they have a sign company, Fast Signs, right? Which, by the way, just shameless plug, Fast Signs is a very, very actual good franchise to be a part of. Just to let you know, from what I've seen.
Shameless plug. We're all about shameless plugs today. Maybe someone will be let's talk about it. We are 53 minutes after the hour. Shameless plug. If you want to sponsor the Trash Talk Business Podcast, hit up Casey at Casey at Vetworx. Casey at
VetworxUSA.com.
You can find him on LinkedIn and Facebook when he's not kicked off. He's currently on Facebook. By the time this episode airs, I have no idea if he'll be kicked off of Facebook again. But in the meanwhile, still on Facebook. All right, there you go. Shameless plug. Right. But I used to be a radio guy, so you can do those top of the hour. What do you call it? Station identification announcements.
Well, I told my sister, because she's going to eventually take over this business from my dad. And I was talking to her, and I asked her, like, hey, do you do any networking events? Like, do you do anything? She's like, well, no. I was like, why? And she honestly didn't have an answer mainly because she didn't know. And I said, well, here's the deal. I go, now is the perfect time, because she's their main graphic designer, right? Because she's just awesome at what she does. I go, now is the time to do those things, because
and she's this is which sister? This is your young sister. She's like 18, 19 or something.
No. This one's Caitlin. She's 24. So I mean, she's young. 10 years younger than me.
Young enough where if she gets into good practices now,
transition happens.
Correct. She's got 20, 30 year relationships she can start forming today.
Yeah, today. And like I was telling her, I go, because there's so many different ways. And a lot of people, the first excuse for anybody not to do something is always money. I don't have the money. But here's the cool thing.
No. I'll argue time. They'll say they don't have time.
Time and money.
Right? Time and money, right?
Time and money. Well, the coolest thing is you're surrounded by other small businesses that probably have what you don't. So if you don't have the money, I always tell people you can do anything you want with other people's money. You just got to know how. And I'm a very good candidate for that because I do a lot of things with other people's money.
Sure.
Because I know how. So, but that was just one of the points. She needs to start getting out there, these networking meetings and meeting other people, creating these relationships, because later on when her and my dad make that decision to turn things over, she's going to have things set up, muscle memory, process, you name it, because now's the time to start that. Now, for those that are out there.
Yeah, she can't start now. It's too late. She can't start when that happens. Right now, now is the fucking time.
It is. And that's the other thing is, if you're in this business, you've already made that decision to lean on yourself.
Yep.
Right? I'm in the business. Okay, cool. Well, how in are you? Because you and I just had a LinkedIn comment. This guy talked to us 2 days later, went all into his business. Right? So that's cool. That means he's like, hey, I'm going all in. All I needed was some reassurance or some accountability. Someone to kick my ass into shape, whatever.
Yep.
But you're already in the business, doing the thing.
Our good buddy Tracy down there in South Carolina.
Yeah, so if you're already in it, like, why not do it the right way and take that time that's needed when you have it the most, and that's when you're slow. Mm-hmm. Because you're never going to get an opportunity where it all matches up. It's like having a kid. Everybody says, we're going to have a baby when the time's right. The time's never going to be right to have a baby. Until you have that baby, you're like, fuck, we got to figure this out.
And again, full transparency, just being honest and transparent with you guys. I started banging jobs, really 2008. I'll call it 2009 is when I got business cards printed.
Yeah.
I did not get jump into junk removal full time until 2016. Mm-hmm. I convinced myself for 7 fucking years that I wasn't ready. So I'm letting you guys know this. Right? Exactly. So this isn't what I do it different. No, I wouldn't have fucking done it different. I would have done it the exact same way because I'm where I'm at today. However, now that I'm at where I'm at, I am encouraging everybody listening, put the work in today, jump when it makes sense, but put the fucking work in first. That's where I'm getting twitchy in the best way possible.
Well, most of us are our own worst enemies when it comes to business. We get in our own way.
Yeah.
We will literally argue ourselves out of doing something that we probably should do.
Yeah.
So, keep putting up the good fight. Man, this episode kind of blew by for me. Like it's already.
Oh yeah, we're just bullshit. So this is good. This is good. We haven't had a guest in a while, and I love having guests. But we started this thing because we're like, oh yeah, we sit around and bullshit. A lot of the other episodes we had a lot of intentionality behind them, and now today this was just, hey, let's bullshit. And that's what a lot of people want. They've been asking. They want to know what's behind the veil, right? The Wizard of Oz, right? The guy behind the megaphone, if you will. And this is the conversations you and I have. And this is how we pump each other up. And this is what I encourage you, right? 3 things. First and foremost, Casey talked about at the top. Do the things that are necessary within your business before you think they're necessary. Hire before you need someone. Market before you got a slowdown. Train people, right? Build processes and train people before you have an accident, incident, issue, right? So there you go. So do shit before you need it. That's the first thing. Second thing, learn from those around you. Learn from not just listening to this podcast, jump into the Facebook groups, read the headlines that matter to your industry. Hell, go out with other people near you that are in similar industries. I am not an advocate for going out with your junk removal competitors in the space. I don't do that. Some people are. Not my thing, right?
HVAC is a very good industry.
Right. But for me, I used to get together when I was in the franchise. I used to get together with my neighbors on the phone and in person, and I would drive to somebody else's territory, an hour to a different metropolitan area, and learn from them. Break bread, have lunch. So I will say that. And the third thing I'll say is, go Pack Go. Let's go. Here we are, 37 episodes into the Trash Talk Business Podcast. Ending on a high note with a W on a Monday. Casey, got anything to say? What takeaways did you have?
Honestly, the biggest takeaways are you have no more excuses when you're slow, because it's like your business's way of telling you, hey, you got all the time in the world to do what you need to do.
That's true.
You're going to give yourself naturally every excuse not to do it. But that's the thing is you chose to get into business for yourself. So now you have to be responsible and do what's best for your business.
Do what's responsible. Do what's necessary to get your business to where you want it to be and determine your success. I talked about it at the top of the hour, or about halfway through the show, rather, about that one gentleman that brought in about $144,000, netted $82,000. If that's his goal and that's his dream to be a single owner operator, awesome.
Yeah.
But and that's good on him. If you want to get out of the truck someday, that model is not repeatable to do that. So that's what I'll say, because I hear all too often, I don't want to be in the truck forever. And we've seen guys that never get out of the truck in the first 2 or 3 years, and by year 4 or 5, they have no clue how to get out of the truck, and they're already way past the time to get out of the truck. So there you go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Episode 37, wrapped up, ready to go. As always, we love hearing you, love the listenership, appreciate you guys. Always want to have you guys reach out to us. If you want to be on future episodes of the podcast, hit us up. And we have a quick screening. We want to make sure we add value to everybody else around us. We love hearing from you guys.
Complete fucktard.
Yeah, no complete fucktards. Actually, I heard this week someone was tech-tarded, which I thought was interesting because I am tech-tarded.
Oh man!
If you want to have a podcast, get an engineer if you're tech-tarded like me.
Evolution of vocabulary.
Yeah, there you go. Right in the military, we had fucktards. That's how it goes. All right, I've been Andy. I'm Andy. He's Casey. It's been another great week here on the Trash Talk Business Podcast.